Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Harry Zakaru, who was given a prognosis of a spinal cord injury, incomplete quadriplegic, but he's walking. So he's here to share his story. He had an accident on the road and he'll go into a bit more detail. Welcome to the program, Harry.
Thanks, Mirella.
So you've been diagnosed as an incomplete quadriplegic and you're walking now. Can you tell us a little bit about the accident that brought you to this injury?
Sure. I was a bike rider, part-time bike rider. I used to ride the bike to work from home to the city. Right. And one cold July morning in 2009, so nearly 6 years ago, I was riding down St George's Road on the way to the city, and it was probably about 7:20 when a van decided to illegally go through a stop sign, and in taking evasive action to avoid hitting the van, I slammed the brakes on, flew over the handlebars, and landed on my head. And that's where how I came to have the spinal cord injury.
And you're awake through the whole time?
I blacked out for probably a couple of seconds, because I remember coming out off the bike and looking up and seeing the driver's face and exchanging quick pleasantries with him, which weren't very pleasant, by the way. And then I blacked out, and when I did wake up, I knew I was in a little bit of trouble because I couldn't move any part of my body at that stage, and I was quite worried. I thought, well, that's it, I'm dead. I must be on my way to heaven or somewhere like that. Maybe not quite heaven, but I'll get there eventually. But I heard the voices coming from behind me, and I knew somebody was coming to help me. So I told them not to move me because I was sure I had a spinal cord injury because of the fact that I couldn't move. So she was my first aid attendant. Happened to be a personal trainer who'd just finished their training in first aid, so I was lucky enough to straight away be treated as a spinal cord injured patient.
Wow, yeah.
And no further damage was caused, because a lot of the damage may not be when somebody has their accident. It does happen post-accident, where people try to do the right thing and they move people and try to get them into a comfortable position, whereas she did all the right things and kept me immobile.
And what was, when you finally got to the hospital and you you were able to talk to the doctors and everything, what was their first official prognosis for you?
Well, I was in La La Land when I got to the hospital because of all the drugs that they've given me, or at least the whistle in the ambulance. But when the first time I sort of registered about my injuries, I knew I had a spinal cord injury. My mind knew that, but nobody had told me that as yet. But when I was told about the spinal cord injury, I was told I had a broken wrist, I had a broken shoulder, a few broken nose in a couple of places, cuts and bruises on the face. So I've retained my ragged good looks, as you can see. But the doctor said I had an incomplete spinal cord injury. Now, he didn't say you're going to be paralysed for the rest of your life. At that stage, he just said you've got an incomplete spinal cord injury. So that's what was in my head. So a little later on, when I was in the ward and I was a little bit more lucid, I had some visitors who I was explaining to them my injuries, and I said, I've got a broken wrist, I've got this, that and the other. I had an incomplete spinal cord injury. And of course I wasn't doing that with my hands, because my hands I couldn't move at the time. But the doctor was in the room at the time, and he did hear me saying that to my visitors. And a little later on, he asked to have a word with me, and he said, "You do realise that an incomplete spinal cord injury is quite serious, and you're not likely to walk again." I said, "Well, that's your opinion," and I could at that stage wiggle my toe on my left foot just that little bit, and I said to him, "Well, you know, I've got to start working from that little toe and work my way up." And yeah, sure enough, I did prove him wrong, and no, he's a good bloke, but you know, he was wrong in this case.
Yeah. And what was his reaction when he saw you eventually walking, or did it just come out? He was there the whole time through watching.
Yeah,
as
the
it
doctor.
progressed?
The doctor I saw at the Austin at the time is the doctor that actually saw me through the Austin, through rehabilitation at Royal Talbot, and also rehabilitation at the Northeastern Rehab Centre, where I ended up finally towards the end of my rehabilitation. And you know, he even though his prognosis was that I'm a quadriplegic and I'm not going to walk again, his reaction was that he was happy for me. You know, we have a fairly good relationship, doctor-patient relationship. We talk footy as well, but you know, the fact is that he was happy for me, and you know, I still see him to this day, and he's always happy to see me. I'm happy to see him, and you know, we have a bit of a joke, and I keep reminding him that he was wrong in this case.
What does he say?
Yeah, well, he said, "I'm glad I was." He said that many a times to me.
That's beautiful. And what about throughout this whole process? How was your emotional and mental state?
Well, initially I was in a pretty sad place. I was, you know, sort of thinking, you know, what have I done to my family? And, you know, am I going to have to put them through something that they shouldn't be going through? And I was, and look, that stage didn't last very long. It was, you know, a couple of weeks, a couple of days. I can't remember. It was you know, it was a bit of a drug haze at the time. But once I decided that I needed to focus on the positives, I came out of that space, and a lot of that was because of the drugs that they were giving me for the pain. At this stage, I was being taken off those drugs because of they didn't agree with my system. So we were able to actually, I was able to become more lucid and actually plan what I wanted to do in the future, rather than be told what I was going to be doing in the future.
All right. Oh, we've got to go to a break now, but we'll continue. You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community, and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
Hi, I'm Darren McElwain from Air FM Drive. You can tune into my show from 3 to 6 p.m. on 88.0 in Penrith and also on tunein.com. And apparently, we don't throw rocks. Air FM Drive. Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Harry Zakaru, who has sustained an incomplete spinal injury and is a quadriplegic, but he is walking, and it was all due to an accident on the road on his push bike, and he's explaining his story. In this segment we're going to talk a little bit about how he actually got better. So welcome back to the program, Harry.
Thank you.
And so did you set goals, and can you walk us through your recovery time? How did you get there, just for people who are watching and maybe in the same boat as you?
Well, once I finally came out of the crazy drug haze period, which I don't recommend to anybody, I made a decision that I was going to walk. I didn't care what the doctors had said. I said I'm going to walk. I didn't want to be a burden on the family. I didn't want to be a burden on society. So, I mean, you can't just get out of bed and walk once you've been paralysed. I mean, I was basically paralysed from the chest down, and even to this day, everything from the chest down is quite different, with pins and needles and numbness and pain and so on. But you know, we learn to live with those sorts of things. But what I decided to do was to set myself some goals. Of course, the no-brainer was that I was going to walk again. The second goal that I had set myself was to get back to work full time. I worked with Australia Post, and I wanted to get back to work and be with my colleagues again. The third goal I set was that I wanted to actually get back on the bike and at least finish the ride that I started on the day of my accident. And the fourth goal was being an active hockey player. I wanted to get back to the Footscray Hockey Club and have another game of hockey, just to prove to the driver that hit me that you can't stop me. To do that, obviously, it was going to take some time. So
I don't think he would have deliberately set out to stop you.
No, I don't think he did that day, and I'm sure if he knew what I'd gone through and what everybody I know, my family and friends have gone through, I'm sure he wouldn't be too pleased with himself. But look, I don't sit here in judgment. He made a mistake. We all make mistakes, and his mistake has hurt me, but I'm not blaming him. It's as far as getting back out of the chair was concerned for me, was the fact is, the sooner the rehabilitation can start, the sooner that you can start getting your abilities back. I was lucky enough that I didn't have a lot of other injuries. The broken wrist had the plaster on, and the shoulder was in the recovery phase, so I could pretty much go straight to rehabilitation. The only problem was getting a bed in the rehab unit, and I was lucky enough that at the 2.5 week mark that a bed became available at Royal Talbot, which is the Austin feeder rehabilitation.
And how did you
centre.
nut it out? Like, did you get you got your toes back first, movement in your toes, and then what happened? How did you get to the next step of rehabilitation?
So once I got to Royal Talbot, I had to basically find out what the program was going to be, and it's not intensive, unfortunately, or at least it's not intensive enough. Initially, you get a few extra sessions of physio, and you know, if you're lucky enough, you might get a session in the pool. And I never got a session in the pool at Royal Talbot. But yeah, my left toe was the starting point for me. I do remember the first day that they used a machine to stand me up off the chair and have me upright, and that was probably 4, maybe 5 weeks after the accident. To be honest, I became very emotional just to be standing tall, well, as tall as I can be, being only 5'7". it was a really emotional time. I stood there crying, and it was I really felt that I'd achieved something, even though I wasn't doing it physically myself. The machine was doing it.
Just to be back in that position.
It was a real buzz to be standing up, and that was pretty much a turning point, because that's what I wanted to do all the time. So I would go into the physio room about 10-15 minutes early and get onto the treatment beds and start my exercises, my stretching, so that when my time for physio was there, the physio could just work on me rather than try and warm me up and get me ready for the physiotherapy. So I wasn't wasting any of the 45 minutes, 50-minute session that we had. It wasn't wasted on getting me warmed up. I'd already got ready.
And how many 50-minute sessions or so did you have a day? Was it once a day or was it twice a day?
Initially it was once a day, and as time goes by, these fade down to maybe 4 sessions a week, and then 3 sessions a week, and depending on how long the patient is in the rehab centre, they end up just sitting around doing nothing all day, because there is nothing there's plenty they can do for them, but the funding just can't get them the rehabilitation that they need. But I guess I was lucky that from the Royal Talbot I was actually transferred to a private rehabilitation centre at Northeastern Rehab, and I was actually having 2 sessions of physio a day there, 1 occupational therapy a day, and also getting in the pool once a day.
Okay. And to get movement back, did you, like when you weren't doing the sessions with the physios, what were you doing on your own? Were you trying to constantly contract your muscles to try and make them come back to life?
Yeah, sure. I was. I never stopped. I'd be, when I could stand, I would stop the chair and lock the chair in and stand up and just hang on to the table so that I wouldn't tumble over. And when I was in bed, I would be stretching my legs. I would be, whenever I could, if I could move them at the time, depending on the phase of the recovery, I would start stretching the legs or moving my arms around to actually get them loosened up and start the flow of the messages coming from up here and going down through the nerves. Knowing full well that some of those nerves have been damaged or severed, I needed to teach the mind and the body to read the signals from somewhere else. And look, I was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, that is really great. We're about to go to a break now. You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
Classifications let you know about the content of movies and computer games, so you can make informed choices. G tells you the content is suitable for general viewing and playing. PG means parental guidance is recommended, and the content may not be suitable for younger children. M says it's recommended for mature audiences over 15. MA 15 Plus indicates that legal restrictions apply, and the material is not suitable for those under 15. R18 Plus is restricted to 18 years and above. You can also find useful consumer advice next to the classification. Look out for these symbols on games, DVDs, advertising posters and movies. Please use these classifications to help you choose with confidence.
We want to show you what's dangerous about this river. but we can't. That's the problem. You can't see ice-cold water, snags like tree branches or strong currents. So in enjoying our rivers, remember, wear a life jacket, avoid alcohol around water, never swim alone, and learn how to save a life. Our rivers are beautiful, but more Australians drown here than anywhere else. It's simple. Respect the river. Head to royallifesaving.com.au/respect the river for more information.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Harry Zakaru, who is actually an incomplete quadriplegic, but he's walking. He'd had an accident on the road while riding his push bike. Welcome back to the program, Harry.
Thanks, Mirella.
With this injury, so the way you really got better was like you did your physio exercises with the physios, but in your own time you just kept going and you just exercised non-stop, contracting muscles, trying to get things going the whole time. How did you get your energy to keep doing that all the time, and mental energy and physical energy?
Well, I was an elite sportsman. I won't say an elite. I played hockey for a number of years, and that was my sporting outlet. I played at the highest level as I could at my club, which was State League 2. So you know, I wasn't playing State League at the time of my accident, but I was still playing hockey, and I was at a fairly good physical fitness level.
Yeah.
So I was at a good starting point for somebody who needed to start rehabilitation. So I guess that's lucky for me because I didn't have to work too much on getting fit. I was already fit, so I was able to concentrate on improving on that fitness and then using that strength to build the muscles up that needed to be built up. Because I remember when I left Royal Talbot, looking down at my legs, and I used to have calves, bike riding calves that look like rocks, and I looked down there and I saw these little bony legs, and I thought, crikey, I've got to work on those things. So I basically looked at my body and decided what needed to be worked on, because I knew what it looked like before. It wasn't pretty, but it was my body, and I knew what it needed to look like so that it would be back to as normal as I could get it.
So you kept pretty focused the whole way through?
Pretty much, yeah. Once I was home, I tried to find a way of getting to a gym so I can do some work. Unfortunately, I don't do as much gym work now that I used to. Work gets in the way, and time with the family for me is precious, and that's part of the reason I wanted to recover, so I can be there for my family and be there with them to share life experiences. So because I have to work to make a living, it's difficult to go home and say, well, I'm now going to pack my bag and go off to the gym and do this and go for a swim and do that. But I think I need to refocus at the moment, because my last goal, which was the hockey game, now that it's been achieved, I actually need to look at I needed to look at what I need to refocus on. So I decided that because I used to do triathlons, don't ask me why, but I did. I can't swim, but I used to do triathlons, and I did about mini triathlons, that is, but I did about 20 of those before I decided that I was getting a bit too old for it. But I've decided that I'm going to do a triathlon now. So at the end of this year, hopefully last weekend or second last weekend in November, I'll do one of the short course triathlons. Hopefully I'll get some people along, and we can do some fundraising again, which is fun.
And did you find at all during this time you changed your diet in any way, like when you were recovering, or did you eat exactly the same as you did that didn't change at all? Did it have any effect?
To be honest, when I was in rehab, I was too scared to eat anything that didn't come from the hospital because being...
First time I've heard anyone say that.
Well, being in a wheelchair, the last thing you want to do is get bowel problems or diarrhea because you can't get to the toilet very quickly, and so I was always very mindful about what I ate. And the first time I did eat something that came from outside, I did get diarrhea, and I don't mind telling people now, but it can be embarrassing when you have accidents, and that, unfortunately for people in a wheelchair, these accidents do happen, and it's just a part of life. And I mean, even to this day, my bowel issues are still prevalent.
Right. So when we also, because some people might not know, when we say spinal cord injury and quadriplegic, you're still an incomplete quadriplegic. That name doesn't change even though you're walking. Can you elaborate on that?
It's funny. When I did play my game of hockey, I was described as a former quadriplegic on the news report, and I found that a bit. I thought that was good. Yeah, that's not bad. But then when I went to see my physio and my doctor, they both had seen the news report, and they commented to me and they said, "These people got it wrong. You're actually still a quadriplegic. It doesn't matter how much function you get back. Your injury is your injury, and basically, I'm forever going to be tagged as a quadriplegic, which is fine by me. I wear that very proudly."
And even if you're completely recovered, you get all your feeling back, all your strength back to what it was before the accident, are you still called a quadriplegic?
I would assume so. I've never got everything back 100%.
It'd be interesting.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to say, yeah, I'm 100% now, but I'm still a quadriplegic, because that's a badge of honour that I'm wearing. I'm not embarrassed about being a quad. There's a lot of us out there, quads, paras, and it's something that it was bestowed on me by someone. I'll wear it proudly. It doesn't matter.
And did you ever ask, why did this happen to me, or what is the point of learning all this again when I could already do it before?
People ask me if I could change anything, would I change it? And I'd change the fact that I was injured, but the journey that I've had since the injury and the people I've met over the journey have been fantastic, and I've learnt a lot about people that I already knew. I've learnt that some friends are sort of part-time friends, and I've learnt that some friends are real friends, and I think I fought this from the inside out rather than from outside in. So I challenged this accident, this prognosis, head on, from inside, from my heart, and on behalf of my family, because I wanted to still be a father and a husband and a son to my mum, and a brother and sister to my brothers and sisters. So it was a hard journey, but I found the strength from within.
Beautiful. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the program. Would you like to come back next week so we can talk more about this?
Oh, you're twisting my arm now, eh? Why not? Let's do it.
Beautiful. You've been watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest was Harry Zakaru. Hope you enjoyed the program. See you again soon.
Performance Poetry comes your way with Red Lobster every Monday night at 9:30. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Harry Zakaru, who is an incomplete quadriplegic due to an accident he had on the road while riding his push bike. He's actually walking now. He's done a lot of training and exercises, and here to tell us about his experience. Welcome back to the program. You came back again.
Back again.
Great.
Can't get rid of me that easy.
And like, say for example, let's go back to the first time of some people's injury where they're actually told they're never going to walk. There's no flicker, there's no movement, there's nothing. And they're just like in their wheelchairs, in the hospital, or even back at home, completely given up hope because the doctors told them it will never happen. They'll never feel anything again, and they'll never feel, as in get the regain the feeling in their body, the sensation, or get any movement back at all. And they're told, cut, throat, no way. What would you say to someone like that, even though that wasn't exactly what happened to you? You were told you had hope.
Well, no, the doctors never told me I had hope. They told me I was a quadriplegic and I wasn't going to walk again. But
you might not walk again, or you definitely. Yeah.
No, they said I wasn't going to walk again. But the thing is, they do that to everybody. Yeah, anyone that comes in there with a spinal cord injury, they basically say to them that you're a paraplegic, you're a quadriplegic, and you're not likely. Usually, the wording they'll use may be a little bit different, but they'll either say you're not likely or you're not going to walk again. You're not going to regain your functions. But the truth of the matter is, today more than ever, more people are walking, or at least regaining a lot more of their functions back after post-injury, more because of the fact that, that it's been discovered that exercise and physical stimulation of the body and the body parts that are actually not functioning is helping people regain either movement or functions. For someone who's a quadriplegic who's sitting there like that, to be able to move one finger, it's a huge achievement. Now that is happening to people because they're being encouraged to actually be physical and to actually do some work with their injury. Whether the funding's there to actually provide that for them, that's another story.
Yeah, I think I've got a completely different story though, because when I was in hospital, they said to me, "You will never get anything back. You will never walk, not might walk, you'll never walk, and you are a complete spinal cord injury." Yep. And there were other people with me that were told similar things. And now luckily I am walking with crutches because I've worked through their words. But there are people that really believe them, and they're the ones I actually want to reach out to, the ones that actually innocently and vulnerably and trust and believe them.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people who are in the spinal cord, in the spinal ward at any of the hospitals, especially at the Austin, just happen to be in their mid-teens to mid-20s. That's the age where you're going to actually have that sort of accident because of the activities that they carry out. But to be that young and to be told that you don't have the strength, you don't have the inner strength to actually fight back and say to them, well, no, I'm going to try a bit harder than you're telling me. My experience when I was in Talbot, there was quite a few youngsters in there. One of them, I thought, he's got to be a quadriplegic because he was sitting there almost every day, very, very quietly and not being able to do much at all. When I did walk, his father came to me and said, "Oh, my son said that you've actually walked in the gym." I said to him, "Yeah, it's been hard work, but thankfully I'm able to start putting one leg in front of the other and regain a little bit of my mobility and able to walk." I said, "How is your son doing?" And he said, "Oh, he's struggling a little bit." He was only in his mid-20s at the time. I said to him, "Would you like me to have a word with him?" And I did. I spoke to his son a little bit later on, and I was quite frank with him. I said, I started the conversation, and he said, "Oh, you're walking," and I said, "Yeah." I said, it's been great. It's been hard work." I said, "What about you?" He said, "Oh no." I said, "Well, do you want to walk?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, unless you try harder, You're not going to. You sit there waiting for people to do things for you. I told him that he needed to work harder. Now, I'm not taking the credit for him actually doing anything other than just getting himself into the recovery mode and working a little bit harder in the gym, on the physio table, and just working with himself. Happily for me, 3 or 4 months later, when I was back at the rehab centre, I saw a miracle as far as I'm concerned. I heard somebody coming on a frame. Now it was that young man. He was able to walk with his frame. Okay, it's not 100% mobile, but geez, he got it out of that wheelchair. You know, he just needed that encouraging word from somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not taking the credit. He did the hard work, but he actually got out of that chair and he used that frame to actually walk.
Yeah,
I was so proud of him.
Yeah.
So proud of him. I cry every time I tell that story, but you know, I tell it often enough so that I can get out of that that emotional stage. But I'm just so proud of that young man.
It's crazy, isn't it? I remember when I was there, the nurse came to see me and she said, because I felt so vulnerable too, I was really young, and I said, what happens if I work really hard and I keep trying to exercise, will I get anything back? And she goes, you can exercise till the cows come home, nothing's going to change. You can try until the cows come home. I thought there was just so no hope, really no hope. And I really feel for other people who are treated like I was. It's just, because it's really negative. And they said I was complete, it wouldn't happen. But I had everybody, nobody believed I would do it. No one, not even my family, because I was told I would never walk. Yeah. They had hope for me and they encouraged me, but it was like a monkey. What tricks can you do now? If you haven't got anything in 3 months, 6 months, you know, then we'll slowly think everyone's giving up on you. But, you know, years later, stuff started to
I think now, in the now, you know, your injury was some time ago, mine was 6 years ago. The thinking is shifting. Okay, the doctors still have their teaching as what they know, but
they still say we prefer to wheel them out.
Well, absolutely, they want to wheel them out. But out there are centres opening up who are spinal cord recovery centres who use exercise as the number one recovery tool.
We'll have to go to a break now. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back very shortly.
I got my big break about 5 years ago.
My big break came 10 years ago.
I got my break about 8 years ago.
If you're over 50 and have recently had a bone fracture from a minor bump or fall, you may have osteoporosis.
If you've had one break from osteoporosis, there's a good chance you'll have another.
Find out more, talk to your doctor, or call Osteoporosis Australia today.
Don't wait for your next big break.
Ryan was diagnosed with asthma around about 2. Ryan never let asthma get in the way. He just lived and breathed for soccer. He was the kind of person that lived his life in excited anticipation. He did everything that he wanted to regardless, and even to the point of travelling overseas, he was actually advised he probably shouldn't. Ryan was like a lot of 19-year-olds. He thought he was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Ryan had been playing soccer in the afternoon and had a great game and came home and went out to a party. During the evening he started to feel unwell and rang me and asked me to go and collect him. On the way home in the car he told me that he hadn't taken his Preventer for quite a few weeks. So I suggested that he really should go to the hospital on the way home and get checked out because I was concerned that he wasn't getting any better. Within a very short period of time, Ryan experienced a respiratory arrest, was put on life support, and 3.5 weeks later he died. Whilst Ryan had been in hospital a couple of times with his asthma, I don't recall anyone ever telling me that you could die from asthma. I never for a minute thought that I would lose him. Even if someone told you that your child might die from asthma, I think you'd be thinking that was for other people. But the reality is it happens to normal people like us.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Harry Zakaru, who is a quadriplegic, incomplete though, and he's walking after a spinal injury he had when he was on the road on his push bike. Welcome back to the program, Harry.
Thanks, Mila.
Now, just before the break, we were talking about there are other places now that are starting to help people with spinal cord injuries. Like, I've heard of like Project Walk in America, and they're getting such great results for some of the spinal cord injury people, but it's very expensive, and it's not government funded or anything. You have to actually find all the money yourself to go there. Have you got any information that you'd like to share on that?
I haven't taken a part in any of these centres. I think those places should be reserved for people who really need it. I'd love to be a part of one of these centres, but I'm not. Project Walk is a place that came to my mind when I was in Talbot. People were talking about going to the States to do this sort of work with what was a really expensive exercise. I mean, you've basically got to fly yourself and a carer with you, and you've got it's a 3-month program, I believe. So there's a couple of centres that have opened up in Melbourne now that, in Australia, I should say. There's a Project Walk in Sydney and Brisbane, and I know some people were
walk-on program. Is it the
walk-on program? Yeah, that's right. They change the names as they come to different countries, but they can be quite expensive. But I believe that they're very worthwhile, and if the funding can be found for people to actually take part, it doesn't mean you're going to go there and walk.
Yeah,
but what it does mean is that it gives a person who's been paralysed from the chest down, from the waist down, whatever, it gives them an opportunity to try and recover as much function from their body as possible. As I said earlier, just moving the one finger is a huge achievement for people.
Yeah. And plus the difference with those places is they really believe in you, and they work really hard on you. And there's probably, I think, about 3, from what I've heard, because I've never been, but 3 people work on one person, and they work really, really hard on you, and they get results.
Yeah, I've seen a centre open up recently in Melbourne, in Thomastown, and the work that they're doing there is just fantastic. I believe that the people that are going there believe in the people that are coaching them and training them. They have, as you said, at least 2 or 3 people working on them at any given time. They don't have a dozen patients they're working on. They only have a small group of 3 patients at a time, and it's a very structured program.
Yeah, I remember when I had my injury, I've still got my injury, but when I was really training with someone, I paid someone who had been through a similar injury myself, because TAC wouldn't recognise it, or work cover wouldn't recognise it either, because I was on my way to work, but it was on the road. But he worked me so hard, and he was so positive. We worked from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, and just worked as hard as anything. And he didn't stop saying anything but positive things. And he would say, get the doctors out of your head, the physios out of your head, believe you're going to do it. Anyone who said anything negative, just don't even think about it. Don't let the energy take up any space in the brain, you know. And he was so positive, and we just reached milestones every week. I'd make goals every week, and we'd reach something every week. And, so I know the power of that.
I think the important thing there is that surrounding yourself with people that are positive about what you're trying to achieve. And I was lucky enough to have positive people around me. I've always been a positive sort of person. So if somebody said I'm not going to walk, I'll just try and find a positive out of that. And I did. And you're right. And you need to surround yourself with positive people, but also be positive yourself. You can't let any negative thoughts enter your mind, because as soon as they do, you're going to start doubting yourself, and you're just going to go backwards. You're not going to be able to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And that's been one of the things that's been driving me. I guess the only goal that I set that was that is impeding me now is to go back to work full time, because it doesn't give me enough time to actually try and get out there and train and get ready for my next other goal, that's the triathlon. So it is really hard to work around it, because I don't like to take time away from the family and the things that we do together.
Yeah. And what sort of other things you in your endeavour to get better and walk and recover, you also ran some fundraisers while you're doing it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, when I decided that I was going to get back on the bike to ride back to work, I just wanted to, on a quiet Sunday morning when there's no one on the roads, get on a bike, whether it be a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler. I actually, when I did do it, was on a three-wheel bicycle that was loaned to me by Australia Post, on a tricycle. Yeah. Australia Post were kind enough to give me one to do it with, and it sort of grew out of the idea that, you know, I needed a couple of people around me just in case I had a fall or something. But before I knew it, you know, there was dozens of people that wanted to join me. So I decided to charge them a fee and asked people to sponsor me to do the ride. It was only 7 kilometres. So it wasn't a huge ride, but from an achievement point of view, I was floating on air that day. You know, it wasn't very physically demanding, but it really did show that you can achieve what you like. And we were able to raise in excess of $7,000 on that day.
And where were you raising the money for?
Most of the money was directed towards Royal Talbot. My original goal was to raise $2,000 and buy a set of televisions and bar fridges so that the patients can set them up in their rooms to store their food and have obviously a TV to watch, because the rooms don't come with televisions at the rehab centre. So we did that, achieved obviously the $2,000. We also bought a special air mattress, which is specially designed to prevent bed sores for people with paralysis. So that was something that Talbot would hire each time they needed one. So we actually purchased one on behalf of Talbot, and you know, they're making good use of that now. You know, unfortunately, somebody I know after my accident had an accident, and they ended up in Talbot, and you know, they had a TV that was purchased with our money, and they had a fridge that was, and you know, I was able to see what happened, and we also directed some of the money towards one of the spinal cord injury recovery programs.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, we'll go to a break now. You're watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and we're here with Harry Zakaru. We'll be back very shortly.
So how have things been going?
When a young person is diagnosed with cancer, it affects their family, their friends, their entire world. Red Kite supports young people with cancer and those around them in real ways.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael. Yeah, I'm at the hospital.
We rely on your generosity to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of families every year. We can't always make things better, but with your help, we can lighten the load.
Show Me the Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me the Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich and we're here with Harry Zakaru, if you've just joined us. Harry sustained a spinal cord injury He's quadriplegic, yet he is walking because he's worked very hard, and there's a lot of good stories come out of it. So welcome back to the program, Harry.
Thanks, Mirella.
Before we continue, we were just talking about the spinal cord injury places that are available in Australia. There's two. There's Walk On in Brisbane and Walk On in Sydney, and the ones in Melbourne are...
Okay, so there's a similar Walk On centre that is based, I believe, at the Western Oval, Footscray Football Club.
Yep.
I can't get that in my head. But there's also a new centre that's opened in Thomastown called the Next Step Injury Recovery Centre, which is doing some amazing things with people in wheelchairs and trying to helping them regain mobility, or at least regain functions that they set goals to do. And it's just, it really is pleasing to see that more people are using the exercise ideology to actually get some function back, because if you don't move it, you lose it.
Exactly, and that goes for even when you're told you're not going to get it back, you still have to believe.
Absolutely.
Like going through a brick wall, you just move it, move it, move it.
Absolutely,
exactly. And when you first found out about this, was there any point where you prayed? Because I've heard like Mary in Medjugorje, where she's been appearing, say things like, what is it exactly? Little children, prayer works miracles, Our Lady said in Medjugorje recently. Well, on the 25th of April 2001, she said that. Did you find a place to pray? Did you find that helped you in any way?
It's interesting you mention faith, I guess. On the first Saturday I was in hospital, a nurse was walking about the ward asking who wanted to go to the All Faiths service that was being held on the Sunday morning, because they were trying to arrange for volunteers to help the patients. And I was in a fairly dark place as far as the drugs go. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, and my wife, who was sitting next to me, she said to the nurse, I don't think you'll be interested. And I sort of half opened my eyes. I said, I'll be in on that. I needed to go there I know I've not been a very religious or very church-going person, but I needed to thank somebody for what had happened that week, because I could have easily been killed. So I was wheeled off into the service that morning. I slept through most of it, I must say. I probably snored through and drowned out the minister who was taking the service. But for me, that was the beginning of coming out and just saying, no, you can't beat me. I've survived this. I may have a spinal cord injury, but I'm going to fight it, and I'm going to just continue fighting it until I can't fight anymore. So.
And what kept your faith so strong that you believed that you would recover throughout it? Like you kept working at it, like you didn't sort of give up and say, oh, this is too hard, or even though they didn't, say 100% you weren't going to walk, but they still said, it's possible that you won't. Don't get too excited.
Look, I used my family as my strength. My kids.
Yeah.
The wife.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I get emotional when I think about that.
Yeah. And in what ways did your family help you, would you say, to recover?
Just by being there and believing in me.
Yeah.
They believed in me all the time, so, if they believed in me, then I had to fight. If I gave up, then I'd be giving up on their dream, and their dreams are my dreams. So, they used my family as my rock.
Yeah, beautiful. And is there anything you'd like to say to someone who's going through this right now? Maybe they're watching TV right now and they've just found out they're in the same position. What sort of advice would you like to give them?
The doctors don't know everything, but that's the truth. They don't know everything.
Of course it's true. They're not God.
You need to just move it. You need to exercise. You need to do as much as you can to try and recover as much as you can. I'm not saying to them you're going to get out of that chair and it's going to be a miracle, because that would be me lying to them. But if you don't try, you just never know what you're going to get back. They need to have a go. They really need to get up. And I shouldn't be saying get up because they're stuck in a wheelchair, but I used to say that to myself. You need to visualise yourself getting out of that chair, because that's what I did. I wanted to be out of that chair, so I had to close my eyes, even though I couldn't move my legs. Close my eyes and just say, okay, I'm moving my legs. and I'm going to get up. I'm going to get up. And just slowly, I was able to just build up on that faith and just get myself out of that chair.
And did you write down each goal, like for each section of the body, like I want to get my quads back by 2 months, or I want to get my quads back in 2 weeks, or whatever? Did you do anything like that?
I didn't write down the goals. I did write them down. I used Facebook as my communication tool. I told all my friends, because I didn't want to use a mobile phone. I had my friends keep up with what I was up to on Facebook. If they wanted to message me, they would message me on Facebook. If they wanted to visit me, I was there. But I put my goals out there. Everybody knew what my goals were, and there was no hiding from the goals. So, I didn't write them down just for me. I wrote them down for everybody, so they know what I wanted to do.
And so I guess you put it out there so you get more support, and also you feel like you've got to bring the results, because all these people are sort of waiting now.
Yeah, look, that's a bit of pressure to put on yourself, but yeah, it's a way of achieving your goals. Put that pressure on you. Yeah, but I stumbled a little bit on my goals. I was supposed to do the triathlon last year, but I just wasn't fit enough to do it last year. So I bit the bullet halfway through the year, and I said, okay, I can't do it this year, but I'm going to do it next year. So the plan is there. The TAC have come on board, and they've helped me with some extra physio sessions leading up to this November to do the triathlon. So hopefully, with their help and with the gym membership and swim membership, I'll be able to build up the strength, and it's only a short one, but I'll do it.
Yeah. And is there any way people can help to fund things, to raise money for more physios to help people, say for example at Royal Talbot, more people to work like they do at Project Walk? They have like 3 people working on one person, except you have to pay yourself, whereas Royal Talbot it's funded with TAC for most people. Royal
Talbot is part of the Austin Health Group, and people can make donations to and specifically say that they want the donations to go to the spinal unit at Royal Talbot. The Next Step Spinal Cord Injury Recovery Centre is always looking for sponsors to help them provide their services at a much more affordable price to their clients. They're not funded. They're a not-for-profit organisation, so they're obviously always looking for people to help them out.
Beautiful. Thanks very much for coming on the program. We've run out of time now.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have you again some other time. Would you like to come back again another time?
Oh, why not?
Haven't even got through all the questions. You've been watching Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest today was Harry Zakaru. Hope you enjoyed the program. See you again soon.
If you choose to drink then drive,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's,
your family's,
or your own.
Choose not to instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett. Now I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes. It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos, it was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme. Om. Allah. Satnam.
You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And in this program we're speaking to Father Victor Farrugia, Parish Priest, St Augustine's Church, Burke Street West, the City of Melbourne. In the last program we explored Father Victor's spiritual evolution, and as we ended the program it was quite clear that Father Victor has a penchant for healing from the heart. And out of that grew an idea when he was the parish priest at Our Lady Help of Christians in East Brunswick, to develop an Oasis hands-on healing centre. And let's explore what that was about. Father, Oasis hands-on healing centre.
Well, Oasis hands-on health, in fact, was something that arose out of a number of conversations with, particularly with Dean Vendinia, who was a chiropractor himself, and the doctor, another doctor, and we all kind of shared this idea that, in fact, a healing of a person while manifesting disease in mind or in body or in spirit or in heart, in fact, is always needs to be handled from a variety of points. You know, sometimes somebody's sick physically but is due to stress, for example, or somebody is anxious about something and maybe the hearts are out of focus, if you like.
Yes.
Their relationships with God, with others and themselves is kind of out of skew. And so the idea was to say, well, I'd been in touch with Charismatic Renewal for a while, where healing and physical healing, inner healing were kind of part of the movement, if you like.
Yes.
But I also was very conscious that really as a priest, I needed to confine myself as a diocese priest, particularly in terms of the spiritual aspect of a person, spiritual disease, if you like, for want of a better word, and that there are some areas that maybe a psychologist needs to handle,
yes,
and or psychiatrist, or other areas that say might be more possible for a proper doctor to deal with, so that I didn't have to be all things to everybody in that sense. And in order to become more and more aware of my own role, if you like, as a companion, one who communicates life and love, particularly as I have come to be in Christ Jesus and the power of His Holy Spirit, of the Holy Spirit, that, you know, the boundaries, if you like, enabled me to be more effective in not being kind of dispersed in that sense. And so, as you said rightly before, it was more the healing of the heart that I saw part of the major problem, mine and others, along the way. And to a certain extent, the parish life, particularly here, you had this Sunday sermon, and then we said goodbye, see you next time. Maybe a very small percentage might be involved in some groups, but you just hope to God that everything would go well at home, but there's no other kind of place of formation, if you like.
Right.
And I often used to feel quite handicapped in that sense of that there's something more that needed to happen here. And so the Oasis Centre then began to try to bring in different people. Eventually we had to learn that we needed to keep the medical and the paramedical quite distinct from each other, and the spiritual, and the clear boundaries for what that really meant. The practicalities of it, of course, evolved, and eventually Oasis Hands-on Health continued with paramedical and medical, and moved on from East Brunswick. But nonetheless, I continued to still be very caught up with and involved in walking, being with people, and eventually, of course, as time developed, I became parish priest at East Brunswick, which meant that I had many other duties there. But paramount underneath it all, I was searching for, we need to have real formation of being, not training.
No.
You train a dog, as you know, but formation is what happens when you rub shoulders with someone and you walk alongside and you learn from them. It's more of a accompaniment, if you like, which not everybody is prepared to, but for those who are, those who begin to ask deeper questions, you know, there's something about that.
That sort of multidisciplinary approach, is there any precedent for that? Did you see any precedent anywhere in the world or anywhere in Australia for it?
Yes, I remember it started in the south of France, actually.
Oh, really?
And there was a community called the Beatitudes who were already establishing kind of those kind of centers. I remember reading this book by Philip Mard, who was one of the co-founders of the Beatitudes. And back then, he was talking about the healing of Christ and what does it mean to allow the person to come to a deeper integration in their life, and to look at some of the problems that are presenting themselves today as maybe being the result of unfinished business from the past, and that maybe in that brokenness there's an opportunity to be with this other person in compassion, and from that be with them in themselves opening up to the grace of God and to the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And almost like being with them in being able to reach the shores of their own inner truths, if you like. And sometimes, you know, beginning to forge a relationship that's deeper than just with the people that they know, whatever, you know. So
that seems like we'll need to pick that up after the break.
Okay.
We'll be back.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 27.
I was 46.
I was 62.
The first symptom I noticed
was loss of balance.
Was that I was always tired.
Was a loss of smell.
The most difficult thing for me is not to be able to travel in my retirement.
The most difficult thing for me was giving up a career that I loved.
The hardest thing for my mum was being pregnant with me.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe and warm? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 OzHelp.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Father Victor Farrugia, who's the parish priest, St Augustine's Church in Burke Street West in the city. We're talking about the Oasis Centre and bringing the multidisciplinary approach to healing people together. Were there you're bringing these people from different persuasions into the one place. What were some of the problems that you encountered with that?
Okay, well, I remember this eminent doctor. She's a famous pediatrician, and she was one of our parishioners actually, and she waited for 5 years before she came and approached me, and she said, I know what you're about, I'm supportive of what you're trying to do here. She said, but you need to distinguish, you know, what is medical as medical and what is paramedical. She said, because, you know, there's not as much rigor with the paramedical as there would be with the medical, and if you mix these two together, you'll definitely frighten one group away or whatever. But then that was one way where I began to understand that, okay, we need to be a little bit discerning, because as you know, these days there's a whole supermarket of that fall under what they call paramedical kind of therapies or whatever, so we had to be a bit careful that we weren't promoting something that was not founded and yet tested or whatever. On the other hand, I had to be very clear as to, for example, psychology, psychiatry, who have a very specific aim and often kind of therapy-centered, but it's quite different from what I would be contributing, which is more the spiritual development, which to a certain extent, even though at one stage I would have thought you can pray for healing, but the heart of what I've come to see now is that spiritual development and the formation of the heart has more to do with not so much fixing things up as coming to the deeper truth of who we are, who I am, who you are. And to a certain extent, there's no kind of external authority that can force you into coming into your own. It's something that you come to if you find safety and welcome and someone who truly will walk with you. And this is following, of Christ, what Christ did all the time. The classic is when he stepped into the circle of those about to stone the adulterous woman, and the first thing he did was just knelt at her feet and wrote on the ground, but waiting for the stones to come. And I never forget, you know, Cardinal Sunan saying, in the face of evil, God doesn't necessarily give you a quick answer or take it away, but he, or God, I should say, steps into this with us. And then from that place, together, experience this closeness, and from this closeness then comes the wanting to continue on this journey. So it is very much like relationship. And relationships are not necessarily therapy-centered. And therefore spiritual growth, I've come to know, is not about fixing up doctrinal questions or whatever, albeit needing clarification all the time, but at the heart of things, what Christ, I believe, was about was the kingdom. And the kingdom is, never forget, it was contained in that wonderful verse from the burning bush, when God looked at Moses and he said, I've heard their cry, I've seen their suffering, I've felt their pain, and their cries have come to me, and I've decided to come down and rescue them. And incarnate compassion, in other words. And if you like, the fundamental problem with all of us is our need for true relationships. So I don't know about therapy, but certainly what gives life, you know. And so I had to be very discerning, and particularly when people come and open up, it turned out to be confidentiality and what that really meant. So to tighten up all those things that, you know, we didn't talk, cross-talk about, even if I referred somebody to, say, a psychiatrist, psychologist, that there would only be so much, I would say, enough for the person to begin their own journey with the psychologist. But from my part, I'd still have to learn to conserve that which is totally confidential and stuff like that. So all those things were growing pains, if you like, you know.
What seems to be being suggested to me is that doing it as a triumvirate, if you like.
Yes.
Together. Was that how you did it, or did you do it individually?
We didn't sit no, certainly not at the same time. No, it was more like cross-referral. But those of us who were kind of part of that group, you know, we had a common vision, you know, a lot of times. Belief in humanity, there was a shared belief in God, maybe not necessarily all the same. It wasn't just the Catholics, in other words, we just had ecumenical. And to a certain extent, you know, we were in agreement as to what would be or what wouldn't be allowed within each field, you know. We were all very wary of anything that was not, with regards to some of the other therapies, that was not really, if you like, properly scientifically based and whatever it might be. Yes. But by and large, the building that we started at the back of the church, I remember, had rooms that were accessible to all three, you know, and we worked for a while. It was very interesting during that time, really.
Yes, it's fascinating to think of these three disciplines coming together. In fact, and we'll talk about the outcomes after the break, but it seemed that the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the medical doctors, etc., even part of the university course might be nice if they were acquainted with the heart, so that the three could come together more equitably.
Oh yes, oh yes.
We'll be back in a moment.
We always liked to play chess together ever since we were little. He was always a better player than me. When I was diagnosed with Pompei's disease in 2002, I was told that my life expectancy was going to be poor, and my condition deteriorated rapidly before I was able to start treatment. My brother and I both suffered from the disease. But now I consider myself the fortunate one. My brother spent the last 2 years of his life in hospital. He didn't have access to this wonderful treatment that should be available to everybody. The world just keeps getting smaller as you progressively lose the ability to walk. So your world shrinks, and then gradually you realise, I haven't been to the supermarket in 6 months. I'm 59 now, and every year I can see my daughter grow up is a blessing. I believe my treatment's made this possible.
To learn more and help those living with Pompei's disease, register at australianpompey.com.
You teach us strangers are dangerous. But someone we know is a much more likely threat. You teach us strangers are dangerous. But who will help when you're not around? Create a world without unnecessary fear. Prepare, don't scare.
Stop! Hold it right there. Have you done your pool safety check? Maintain the barriers, check the gate, and never leave anything that can be climbed on near the fence. Have you brushed up on your CPR skills? And don't tempt kids with toys. Tidy up.
Is that all?
When kids are around the pool, keep watch. They need your attention all the time. Okay, in we go.
Download your free home pool safety checklist and help Royal Lifesaving make this weekend your home pool safety weekend.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Father Victor Ferrugia, the parish priest at St Augustine's Church, Bourke Street City, Melbourne. This oasis concept is fascinating, and you've brought these multidisciplinary approaches together. What are some of the outcomes that you saw during the time that you operated?
Sure. Well, maybe if I could quote one particular situation where the parish nursing was part of the team, if you like, and the parish nurses were professional, still are professional nurses who have a sense of the spiritual, and they know that in hospitals there's not enough time for treating the whole person, and in the local church and parishes there's not enough time to really acknowledge the problems that physically, medically people come back from hospital will need, so follow-up and stuff. And I remember one particular moment when we were dealing with a difficult situation with a student, and around the table there was myself, presenting priest, and there was the parish nurse, and then there was a psychologist, and there was a education a person from education, there was somebody from the school, and this was a social worker as well. And it was just an incredible sort of United Nations, and the parents were just overwhelmed by the fact that their particular child, you know, was able to be looked upon as a whole person, not just treated as a problem, because each one brought in his and her own, you know, discipline, if you like, and there was a wonderful synergy that happened at that time, with some very good outcome for the child as well. And that in fact eventually, you know, the family had to look at their own situation. So it's a wonderful way. Now I know it doesn't happen all the time, but one such moment I remembered, I thought, yes, this is what it should be, working together in this way, you know.
Yes.
That I suppose that was a particular moment in my role as parish priest over at East Brunswick, and it's not so at the moment in St. Augustine's, but we can talk about that later. But certainly now, even though I don't have that Oasis Centre, I still hold on to the whole philosophy of the Oasis.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is that it brings on the whole idea that we're all on a journey, we're all on a pilgrimage, and that, like walking through a desert, you know, we stop at an oasis to nurture, to reflect, to look at the journey thus far, to look at where we've got to go, to stop. And I suppose over the years, bit by bit, as a priest, I saw and I see myself more and more as being there at the oasis, where people come and go, nurtured, contribute and move on, or whatever it is that is important to their journey of life.
Yes.
But while they're there, to ensure that they do find rest and nurturing, and hopefully a deeper sense of what is going on within their heart that's taking them on this journey.
Yes.
You know, where are they heading? You know, the questions that arise, that we give space to, you know, often lead us into the next horizon, if you like. So the idea of the oasis has been attractive to me. I remember Carlo Carretto, who used to write wonderful books, and that was the title of one of his books. It's not my original, and he talked about being an oasis in the city desert, you know, and it is a desert. I mean, I live in the heart of Melbourne. I live in the west side, where, you know, I'm very, very conscious of what a desert the city can be.
Yes.
And for me, you know, the church, for me, has to be open-ended, welcoming, firmly, and yet, you know, very much conscious that whoever walks through that door has a story, has a depth, has a relationship with God, with others, and with himself and herself, that hopefully in this oasis will become even stronger, and if need be, that we refer them, if they come up with a problem, to some other discipline.
Yes.
Hopefully they'll find a place of connection there, you see. and referral as well. So, yeah, Oasis is a powerful kind of image there, you know.
It is indeed, and you mentioned several times the whole person, and you'd be familiar with the fact that there's exhibitions run in Melbourne called Body, Mind and Spirit.
Oh, yes, yes.
And that goes back to your point of different disciplines being introduced,
yes,
and disciplines which the veracity of which can't be determined. Ideally, and we only have a minute or so, ideally, what would be some of the things that could be done to bring those disparate parts together so they could actually service the holistic being, taking the spiritual as the baseline?
Yes. Well, ideally it'd be like sending out the feelers and see who would want to be part of this. Now, as I said to you beforehand, one of the difficulty, of course, is that when it comes to particular spiritual disciplines,
yes,
discernment is a very important part of all of this, that not everybody who claims to bring healing in fact does so. And so there's got to be very careful, the church has always been very, very careful and not to, promote something that has not been, at least have a good basis of veracity and stuff like that. And that will always be a bit of a challenge. And that applies to spirituality systems in the church as well. I mean, the church has known a whole plethora of spiritual movements that have gone nowhere, or if anything ended up in a sect or something, so
yes.
So discernment is probably the key, one of the key elements of the old entering the monastery. You just first you became a postulant, and you watched them, and then you became a novice. They watched you, and eventually they accepted you. So there's a whole process.
And through that, you went to spiritual direction.
That's right.
Spiritual direction is what we'll be talking about in the program next week.
Yes.
Thanks for watching. And as I just said, next week we'll be interviewing Father Farrugia in relation to spiritual direction and explore the nuances of that. Thanks for watching.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
The following program carries an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed Video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
performance minutes at Colonial Stadium.
This is just amazing. Colonial Stadium is so plush, right down to the chairs. Look at this. You've got a view that's like, you know, not obliterated by anybody's head at all. And nice and sort of very, very soft. Lovely. Nothing like those horrible plastic chairs they've got at the MCG. Very nice. I'll settle back and enjoy the game.
What a stadium. I don't know what everybody's complaining about. The sun is shining and the roof, oh, drop of rain. Anyway, I guess we'll just shut the roof for a little bit. We'll just push the button.
All the way from Chicago with a bit of a an OS perspective on Colonial Stadium and how it measures up.
Oh, this is my first time here, and I think it's very beautiful. And compared to other stadiums, you know, in the United States, it ranks right up there with them.
Anything in particular that stands out that makes you say it's a beautiful stadium?
Oh, I think it's very unique with the retractable ceiling. You know, we have a few in the States like that, but I personally have never been in one, so it's very nice.
Drinks, ice creams.
And the game hasn't even started yet. Whoa, we're warming up here. This is great. You've got your beer. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. All I need is the meat pie.
All the meat pie. Where's the hot pie girl?
They're not even open yet.
They're not even open yet.
We just about beat the cheer squads today. That's how cool we are.
And what are some of the words that you got to yell out?
Mongrel.
Mongrel. White maggot.
Yeah. Bloody farmer.
Let's give that one a go, shall we? Ready? Bloody farmer! Come on, let's go.
If you're hungry for more than a meat pie, well, Colonial Stadium certainly caters for that type of taste. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a beautiful day.
Sorry, I got you with your mouth full there, but you get that. That's okay. Now, how are you finding the food here at Colonial Stadium?
Very nice, thank you. Yes.
Out of 10, how would you rate it?
Out of 10, how would you rate the food? 8.
8, there you go, right up there. So what exactly did you have today?
We all had hamburgers.
You all had hamburgers. That's all they offer here?
Oh, no, lots of other things, but I've been told they're very nice, so that's why we had them.
Is this your first time at Colonial Stadium?
For me, yes, but for all these other people, they've been here a long time. They've come here regularly.
High five, yeah? A wave. You ready? Stand up. You ready? Yeah? Oh, I'm going to stand up. Okay,
stand up, yeah.
Now, everybody at the other table had hamburgers. Every single one of those people had hamburgers. So what's on the menu if you're not into hamburgers?
Well, I got a chicken satay type thing here, which is beautiful, mixed food,
Lovely,
and a steak.
Sirloin steak. A sirloin steak. And how do you rate the food here at Colonial?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
And they know how to make a rare steak.
There you go.
For some reason, everybody says this place is falling to bits, and I haven't seen a crack in the place or anywhere. So we'll just we'll raid the local places where you go, and we're going to actually. Okay, everybody, just searching for cracks. No cracks. Not even a willy in sight. No cracks. See, the place is sound, completely sound, not a crack in sight.
Let's just compare with the women's toilets here at Colonial Stadium and see, you know, whether they're up to scratch, whether you actually want to use the toilets here or not. And, oh, very clean. I am impressed. Hot and cold, bit of soap happening there. Just rub my finger on the bench here and excellent. Now let's just see with the toilets. Here we go. Oh, and I tell you what, they just get cleaned and cleaned and cleaned constantly. You have done such a great job. I have to say, let me shake your hand. No, actually, I won't even clean the toilets. But you've done a fantastic job. How often do the toilets at Colonial get cleaned?
Every day. They get done at night and then in the morning and before the actual game.
Oh, so what sort of state are they at by the end of the game then? Pretty hectic, eh? Pretty horrid?
We walk around and we clean them like all the time, so it's constant, so they shouldn't get down to anything too disgusting. But we've had our days where it works.
Now, who are the most disgusting fans? Are they the Saints fans or the Demons fans or Hawthorn? Who really make a mess?
Has to be Essendon or Carlton.
What makes you say that?
Because they're pigsty. They're the pigs.
You
You're actually illegally parking here. You're just on another one. Have you found getting into the stadium on a wheelchair, and how's the access been?
Well, it's great, you know, everyone's very courteous and helpful, and
Is it easier than other stadiums, or?
Oh, yes, yes, this definitely is. The only thing is that I could say at the moment, and it's all new, they haven't finished it, is the car park over to the what do you call it, the Docklands car park over there hasn't been finished, and we had to come a very long way. I would say half a mile.
Half a mile?
Yeah, to get into the gate. But when we got there, everyone was courteous and very helpful, and we're looking forward to a wonderful day. And
Is Colonial Stadium actually designed to assist people?
Yes, it is. There's adequate underneath the stadium car park on multi-levels, and the lifts are quite easily accessible, and the toilet facility is quite good too.
Fantastic. Anything else for people with a physical disability that is a bit unique to this stadium, do you think, to make it state of the art?
I think, I don't know about state of the art, but I think the wide walkways are very, very handy, which are very important, and also as we can see around us, the seating areas for wheelchair people are very good too.
Explain to me, I don't know, there's so many levels and so much going on here. Simplify it all for me.
Okay, well, level one's basically just all the club support teams. They have a yearly membership, and that's mostly that. Otherwise, there's AFL reserved, general admission as well. Level two, half is a medallion club, which is a yearly membership basically, which they've got the bar, the restaurants.
It's like the VIP, so you got bargain basement, the little VIP.
Yeah, that's right, the VIPs. Then the other side of level two is also Access One membership, so that's also another membership. They've got their own bars and everything. Also the corporates on level three, half is the corporate boxes and the other side is the corporate dining.
Yeah, the VIP people.
That's right. And then there's level four, which is night away here.
Excuse me.
Corporate suites, yeah, see you later, bye. Corporate seats, level 3. Last level 4, what's that?
Plebs.
The plebs. It's the plebs level. We're going to the sky, the heavens. Is it really that bad up there?
No, it's not.
What's it even called? The back.
This is it. The plebs level, level 4. Oh, I feel like plebs will go down the Lux level. Now, I've noticed you've got little headsets here. Tell me about this, because if you're a medallion member, you can purchase like headsets for $5, plug it into your seat, and watch, and there's a video in the seat.
That's right. There's in the middle of the ground, they've got seats that have TV screens that just kind of pop up. You can watch any channel. I think they've got Optus as well, or
normal television.
They've just got a television, and they've got some other channels as well.
Well, I'll have to remember to bring my headphones next time, otherwise a $5 surcharge, but that's okay. It's very visually exciting, these. So what have we got here? We've got What's Happening with the Saints, 8 channels. We've got the Demons. We've got the racing. We've got the Ryder Cup with the golf happening. We've got some rugby as well. There you go. Football of all sorts here at the Colonial Stadium.
Good afternoon. My name's Emil Nicholas. I'm the new General Manager for the Medallion Club at Colonial Stadium. The Medallion Club is a prestigious club which is located in the new world-class Colonial Stadium here in Melbourne. The Medallion Club is made up of 5,000 premier seats in the venue, arguably the best seats, and it's located on level 2 of the stadium. Inclusive of your membership gives you entree to three very exclusive dining areas, quite different in their makeup. One is a contemporary relaxed lounge area which has a full buffet. Then we have an upmarket grill restaurant, which is the premier restaurant. Then we have a more relaxed area, which is the brasserie, and also we have the terrace bar.
Okay, here we go.
Oh wow, I love this program. I love, yeah.
Do you have your tickets for this area?
No, but I'll just pay for them now.
Oh, that might be a bit of a problem. They're $4,500.
$4,500 for these seats.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, pretty comfy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we must be the wrong area.
Wrong area. Oops.
some more punters. Hello, how are you enjoying yourselves this afternoon? The game hasn't quite started yet.
No, it hasn't yet, but it's quite an impressive venue anyway.
Is this the first time you've been to Colonial Stadium?
It is actually, yeah.
And yourself?
I've been once before to Barbara Streisand.
Oh, right. How was that? How was Barbara?
Fantastic.
Yeah. Isn't it fantastic that you can come to Colonial Stadium for other things rather than the football?
It's great.
So you think you'll be here for Ricky Martin?
No.
No? Okay. Isn't that him crying? He's singing now! Oh my God, there you go!
That's about as close as we'll get.
Yeah, you can just almost shut your eyes and imagine he's there. Yeah.
Gyrating away, yeah.
So you'll be here for Ricky Martin?
Probably not. No.
This is our lounge area, and this is a more relaxed, informal area. We have a international buffet, and we have televisions located throughout the lounge. So just sit back, relax, have a few drinks, help yourself to the buffet at your pleasure, and then step out to your Medallion Club seats.
And now we're joined by Chris in the only place that you can smoke in Colonial Stadium, Sirens the nightclub.
And the only place you can get a heavy beer.
A heavy beer?
The only one.
Why is that?
Okay, fair enough. It seems like they can only serve light beer only during the night matches. Day matches, you can have heavy beer, but it seems to be preferred here to you can have a cigarette as well.
So on the night matches you're open and people are clubbing in here while the game's going on?
You got it. That's what we're made for. It turns out basically what we want to have is a band venue downstairs, which is the locker room. Sirens is a nightclub.
So what kind of people end up coming up here?
Up here?
Yeah.
At the moment it's private functions, very large ones, because the place holds about between 700 and 900 people. But it's a nightclub. The sound system is very high tech.
So the general public can come in. Is there a admission fee?
That's correct. That's correct. Depending on the event. We've had events at $10, which is usually the norm, the standard. But we've also had big raves which took in between $30 and $40 a head.
So this is the locker room with a bit of a resident band as well?
That's right, Crazy House on Saturday nights. That's pretty much the regular thing that happens over here. Sean King is the resident DJ. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's it.
Is this like the best seat to be in down here?
No, that's the best seat to be in.
The one in front?
Yep.
What about on the the other levels, the box areas and all that?
I've never been up there. Don't want to go up there. No.
No? Too stuffy?
Yeah, too snobbish.
Too snobbish. And you've got your banners, you got your flags?
Yep.
Do you hate it when they're cheering and you're not?
Yeah. Ask them one person about Colonial Stadium.
Why? What's wrong with the stadium? You don't like it?
No, no comment.
What don't you like about it?
No comment.
Okay, what do you like about it?
No comment.
No comment. This is not your favourite home ground, obviously, huh? No comment.
Go to G.
Yeah, go to G.
Go to the Demons?
Yeah, go to D's.
Go to Saints. It's not Red Nose Day.
It's not Blue Jeans Day.
It's not Mother's Day. It's Yellow Big Day. Well, that's quite a penny you've got there, Steve.
What a snout.
Today's National Big Day. It's Yellow Big Day, and it's designed to promote the plight of battery hens. Not promote it. I mean, we're not trying to say it's a good thing. We're trying to say it's a bad thing. Promote the awareness of the plight of battery hens.
And we're doing that with a breakfast this morning here on the lovely banks of the Yarra.
Yes.
Gorgeous Sunday morning.
That's right. We've got everything over there. We've got the free-range eggs, the not bacon, the not toast, the not cook, and I can't believe it's not butter.
And so is it just today you'll be wearing your yellow beak, or is this going to be an ongoing thing?
Well, you can't wear it when you sleep, because if you roll on your face, it goes all flat.
And probably not a good thing in the shower, because they're a bit of made of cardboard?
They flop, yeah. No, today is National Yellow Beak Day, so obviously it's a wearing a yellow beak sort of thing. I mean, tomorrow is, the Jewish Hanukkah holiday, which is where you lie under your car in the driveway for 15 minutes every 24 hours, and that's, every day is a different day, but today we're focusing on Yellow Beak Day.
Well, have a lovely day.
Oh, why should I? Oh, okay, good, thanks, you're just being nice, I apologise. Okay, nice, thank you.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Chicken.
What do you get when you cross a chicken with a dog? I really don't know, but keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
You had free-range eggs?
Never have anything
Do you think it's
free-range eggs.
Why is that?
Because it's the way to go.
What? Because, of course, did you know that it's Yellow Beak Day?
I certainly did.
Would you like to wear a beak for the rest of today?
No, because I can't speak very good English.
You speak perfectly well.
Egg I've ever had in my life. It was free range, it was wonderful, it was fantastic. And you know what the best thing about it was? It cost me nothing because I got it from the farm. The chook just came along and he just...
You got chooks?
Of course I got chooks.
What's wrong with putting them in a cage? Force feeding them?
We like chicks, but they don't necessarily have to be laying eggs, you know what I mean?
No? Okay.
What are you doing after the show?
Sorry?
What are you doing after the show? Come with that. Come with that. Come with that. Come with that.
See you later.
Bye.
Enjoy your breakfast.
Hey baby, how do you like your legs?
Well, fertilised, Steve. Well, you don't leave empty-handed at this breakfast. You got your free-range eggs. Take 2.
Yes, I don't actually eat them, but I will pass them on to other people, rather than using battery hen eggs.
Why are you so interested in the plight of hens?
Well,
just birds?
No, well, it's not just birds. I mean, it's just disgusting. There's no reason for it. It's just there's no excuse for it, and they can't justify it anymore.
Have you been out to some of the farms where they've had battery hens on site? God, I thought you were bad with 2. Look at him. Steve, this is ridiculous. It's embarrassing. She doesn't even eat the damn thing.
No, I don't eat them, but...
You don't eat them?
No, but I'm passing them on to people.
Yes, so
rather
am I.
than them having...
I don't think about it. Close the boot in the car, though. He says that now. So where were we? That's right. You were saying that it was a bad thing, but I was just wondering whether you'd actually been out to any farms where they've actually had hens in cages.
No, I haven't. I've done the battery busters in Ballarat.
What's battery busters?
We go into the supermarkets and actually try and educate people on buying free-range eggs that aren't available in most supermarkets.
So what do you get them in headlocks and sort of put their arms behind their backs, make them put the eggs back on
chicken costumes, but we approach people in the supermarket, just give them that information and sign petitions and things like that, and just make them more aware of where they can get free-range eggs and why and things like that. Yeah.
How's the response been today?
It's been very good actually. People have been quite receptive to it and haven't had any rude people. Everybody's been very interested. I think a lot of people are not basically eating free range because they really don't know the difference. Between it. So most people have been very responsive to me, and
they said they do eat free range.
Some people have said that, and my answer to them is that's great, and I'm glad that they do. But if they could pass that on to say one other person that doesn't know anything about free range eggs or batch, that would make a difference, and or otherwise stick it in a letterbox of somebody that yeah.
So what comes first then, the chicken or the egg?
You can answer that one.
Oh, I think the chicken has to come first in this case because they're the ones being stuck in a cage.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So,
but what are the price differences? Do you know much?
Well, 45 cents is the difference, and I said...
Between what, a dozen or per egg?
A dozen. So
not a big difference.
Of course not.
Concentrating on it at the moment because it's such a major issue, and this is the closest we've ever got to banning battery cages, so we're really putting all our resources into this.
So how far away do you think it is before we'll see the government banning anything other than free-range eggs?
Hopefully a couple of weeks.
Really?
They're meeting on the 18th of August in Brisbane, and that's when they're going to make a decision whether or not to phase out the battery cages, and that's the big decision that we hope is going to be made.
Now, is that going to be national?
Yes, all over Australia. Hopefully it'll be a phase out.
Right. And then will they be fining people, do you think? I mean, that's going to affect quite a few people's livelihood with regard to that being phased out.
It will, but I mean, the egg industry have known about this for many, many years. We've been campaigning about it for a long, long time, so they should be aware of it. They should be prepared for it.
Why the chicken cross the road? To join the Battery Hen Society. It's Yellow Beak Day.
Now, if you had eggs, would you have gone to the supermarket and had free-range eggs, or is that not really important?
Free range.
Yep. Okay. What makes you say that?
I don't like battery.
And why are you offended by the whole battery hen situation?
Well, I just don't think it's natural. And I've seen appalling footage.
You're dressed like a chicken here.
Am I?
Yeah, all yellow. Do you eat eggs?
I do indeed.
And what sort of eggs do you eat?
I'm supposed to say free range, aren't I?
No, you're going to say anything you want. You don't. Why not?
No, I do. I eat free range. I'm too scared to say anything.
You're afraid to say you just buy normal eggs
Yeah,
like
I do.
everybody
Look,
else.
yeah, I do really.
Why's that? Cheaper?
No, because they're easy access, and I don't really think there's much difference.
In flavour or just the
Yeah,
whole principle?
the whole everything.
Yeah? So it doesn't really matter whether they're running around, free to be, or just stuck in a cage?
Oh, from that point of view. Now you come to mention it.
Feed your child. Do you feed your child free-range eggs or battery eggs?
Yeah? Yep, always.
Why is that?
Because I don't like the way the hens have been kept, and I think that must also translate to the quality of the eggs that you give your children.
So when you go to the supermarket, what brands do you go for? Like, how do you know whether they're free-range or not?
Free-range written on it. So there's a few that are barn, which I don't get, so I just go for the ones that have free range.
They're a little bit more expensive. Does that maybe put you off buying them?
Not in the least, no. No, I don't think we should eat at the point of cruelty to another animal. So.
What did you have for breakfast this morning that you need to be walking it off?
Okay, well this morning I had 1 cup of coffee, then I had some scrambled egg.
Oh, now were they free range or normal?
Well, I don't know. I was staying with the Crown, so I was hoping that they'd be free range. Anything about the Crown's free range, isn't it? Free spending.
So what's the difference to you between free range and just the every dozen that you buy at the supermarket?
Well, actually, I think psychologically it's a shift. To think that you're eating a free range egg, I think you feel it tastes better.
It does?
What do you think?
Can't tell the difference, to tell you the truth.
Well, yeah, I don't think you can tell the difference, but I think it's a psychological shift.
It is.
Yeah.
So why do you prefer the free range?
Once again, because you think about these chooks in a tiny
Keep going.
in a
Don't worry about me.
tiny little box with no room to move, and those injections that they have on a daily basis. The whole thing sounds
They're
really.
just bred to be stuck in a box and just given up eggs.
Sounds
That's their
so
life.
cruel, and to think that we then just take them for granted. It's awful.
Morning, how are you? I'm just wondering, it's Yellow Beak Day. Are you wearing yellow in support of free-range eggs?
Actually, no, I didn't know anything about it.
Well, now that you know that it is Yellow Beak Day, do you wear your yellow with pride?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
So when you have breakfast, is it free range or it's whatever?
Free range if I have eggs, but I don't have eggs very often.
Okay. Do you specifically buy free range eggs?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they taste better, and I like the chickens to be looked after.
Oh, okay. So you like to feel that the chickens are out and about enjoying themselves and plucking and whatnot on farms?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, fantastic. Well, enjoy your walk. Fast walker, bit of power walker.
Come on. It's the ladies that are giving away free range eggs. That's pretty catchy, isn't it? Free range eggs. Now what's the difference? You've got some here. Look at that. Got official stamps and stuff on it. Do they all have official stamps?
Yes, they certainly do.
Is this one way? What would you look for when you're at the supermarket to know the difference? That little symbol.
That means that it's an accredited farm.
Accredited farm. So what? There's free range eggs out there that aren't free range eggs?
I think so. People say they are free range.
And they're not. Ooh, that's terrible. Now these are free range. Okay, let's open these up. Okay, you got a little piece of paper in there that says what? They look. Now they look normal to me. What's the difference?
They're free range.
What does it mean though? They look like eggs. Can't we put little dots on them or
They're
something?
laid by birds that are free to range.
Free. Come on.
Oh, I've just laid an egg.
Woo, I'm so happy. Do you think there's a moral responsibility on people to buy free range eggs and make a conscious choice when they go to the supermarket?
Definitely. I think it's very cruel having the battery hen situation.
And as a result, this lady is wearing a yellow T-shirt in support of the day, Yellow Beak Day.
Yes.
There you
Okay.
go. She wears it with pride.
Okay.
Do you want a yellow beak?
Yes.
You're not. Okay, just step right this way.
Okay.
Excuse me. Excuse me, one yellow beak to go. One yellow beak to go.
No, that's okay. Because how do you like your eggs?
Scrambled.
Yep, free range eggs. Get them while they're ready. Suppose you think that's funny, don't you? But the egg is on your face. Egg fight!
We're just seeing how strong free range eggs are. Not that.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is
promised Tom I would read from the big one. I didn't really promise him. I just told him I was going to. So I'm going to read this poem, which was actually written during my residency at Memphis Theological Seminary. It's called No Matter What When. It was written for the Spotlight on Africa exhibit that was about Africans speaking about themselves, not National Geographic talking about them. It's called No Matter What When. Genetic kinship with night. Alert breathing, relax into lung, cry, whisper, sweat trickle to blend with blood earth. A mystery old as mosaic tiles. The new knowing, sound of hammer on nail beside quiet sagely brick. The sun-baked tunes of antiquity humming tones, the present scripted on walls of my skin. Wonder the price of gold will rise. Who will buy a ring? I dug to place another meal for 6 mouths. Who hears the gasp of surprise? The method of promise, the feeding trees of gathering crops. My son to university will be sent packing culture through customs. A me of us he will make in another world. His dance floor step will electric boogie rookies. A decade of movement will father a walking continent. Rumbling with a coarse belly truth of fallen forests and mining. Echoes of rebirth. Pregnant with sound, his eyes wander on the other side of glass. His music is never always struggle. His degrees dance with the harvest steps. Love is a language of progression. Mirrors of water float where he will look to find me. Skipping in between Kijo, Fela, Miriam, the call. Eastward I've turned. When I go, he will remember the food of our table, the play of our hands, the birds of our walks, the skinning of game, bowing toward the earth to uplift prayer.
This is called Hurricane Blues. Seasons have nightmares like hurricanes. I sit behind the desk, waiting for the heat to rise, that extra knot, before I slip away on a whiskey mile, before the wind comes up and moves my pile of papers, black lines stacking up, and all I can think is one good fuck, and I might be happy, at least for a morning or a day, but the way the cards are down, I'd have to lose a pound before I could make it anyway. And the rain hasn't started yet, and I'm sweating at my desk with the window open, wishing the fan was turning more than dead air. Exiled, out beyond the bamboo garden, waiting for the storm to hit. And I take my whiskey on the rocks, but it doesn't help my belly, and the old terror cramps are hot, and the wind is screaming out my name like a hurricane. For it is the season of nightmares, the overflow, the small biting gain of mosquitoes and fever dreams. At the office party, they're drinking cheap wine to the clinking of beer, and my rank whiskey could strip paint, but I know what it is and I know what it ain't, and I won't try and tell you that it's apricots with overtones of oak. And if they offer me Chardonnay, I'll only accept on the proffer of a good lay, and that's even more fucking unlikely. In these detrimental years, the seasons have nightmares like hurricanes, ripping up the dirt, howling through the muck, singing up my blood when all I want is a good hard fuck, a warm body and a cigarette to see the morning light with. Seasons have nightmares like hurricanes, and I drink whiskey beneath the office fan and hope that my history is not to be swept back, black against the sky, those old hurricane pages. I don't want to see them turn no more. I'll leave them to their air-conditioned nightmares, so long as they leave me far out on the edges, in my one-fan office, waiting for the storm to hit.
Ambulance. One day it will come screaming for you and me, the stridency resounding down rain-soaked streets, seasonless, hourless, masked, supine, strapped down and in shock beneath the white roof, we will be only distantly aware of the jiggling equipment, the rush of intersections, the slow parting walls of traffic, and our siren rising, everything letting go. Blackbirds, hundreds of them, gathered on the crossbars of pylons leading up to the freeway. One of us always passing under these bridges. Heat, the deep drum of thunder. All of this is connected.
This is called Proverbs, and it's after Francois Villon. Francois Villon, of course, has a poem called Proverbs. Why a man with the head of a rabbit? Why an onion that ripples and rolls? Why a mouse when it wheels like a walnut? Why a moon that gibbers and strolls? So big the kitchen walls are crying, so red that it's a tumble-down beggar, so great a tiger that it scribbles on ice cream, so wild a sea knits a yellow sweater. Why a house when it eats potatoes, so small a giant that it purrs, so sly a moon that it drinks down roses, so purple a cat that it stirs. Why the sun smacks its lips as it rises, so sharp a giraffe that it soothes, so riddled a song that it sits among shadows. Why ask for reason for love?
My name is Logan. I'm 12 years old and I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. My muscles are degenerating and I was put into a wheelchair 2 years ago. Soon I won't be able to move at all. The majority of people affected will not live past their 20s, including me. So we need your support to improve our quality of life until a cure is found.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here, to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
If you choose to drive on drugs,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose not to instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Aus Stereo.
I've got the guitar. I'm going to do my my song about cultures that it's okay to be racist about. Because racism's pretty shitty, and we shouldn't be racist. But there are some people who are like free game now. And so this is about all the people you can insult, and it's perfectly fine. So this is catharsis. 3. Okay. I really hate goths! And by goths, I mean the Visigoths. They split up from the Huns. They basically sucked a whole lot. They travelled all around. They faded away, they never settled down, because it's not persecution when the culture's dead. It's not persecution when they've all been clubbed in the head. It's not persecution when the culture's dead. So let's stop fucking. We live in cultures. Fuck with dead ones instead. I really hate the Vikings and the stupid helmets they wear. I really hate the Vikings. All the men put braids in their hair. That's a bit gay. Boats are a shit way to get around. I'm glad a lot of them fucking drown, because it's not persecution when the culture's dead. It's not persecution when you get fucked over by Eric the Red. It's not persecution when the culture's dead. So let's stop fucking. We live in cultures, mates. Fuck with dead ones instead. I really hate the ancient Greeks, but the new ones are okay. I really hate the ancient Greeks. Don't give a fuck what philosophers say. Socrates, he had no class. He fucked little boys in the ass. Look it up. It's not persecution when the culture's dead. It's not persecution when you got the Olympics but your people are dead. It's not persecution when the culture's dead. So let's stop fucking. We live in cultures, mates. Fuck with dead ones instead. I really hate the Aztecs. All they did was kill people and pray. Don't know how the fuck they did it. Quetzalcoatl is a bitch to say. They say they had aliens for peers. That's why we ain't seen aliens for thousands of years, because it's not persecution when the culture's dead. It's not persecution when Cortez comes along, he gives you all smallpox, you think he's a resurrection of your God, and he shoots you in the head. It's not persecution when the culture's dead. So let's stop fucking, mates. We live in cultures. Fuck with devils instead. A sing-along bit's coming up. I really hate the Normans, and by Normans, I mean the French. I really hate the French. The Eiffel Tower is just shit, okay? It's just shit. All French food is a fucking no-windish. They hid from the Germans, they waited for the English. There was no French resistance, the Germans felled them. There were 3 guys in it, and they were Belgium. It's not persecution when you hate the French. It's not persecution. The French, it's not persecution. It's Parisian. You ready for the sing-along bit, everybody? Really hate the French. Really hate the French. What a bunch. What a bunch. What a bunch of the end.
The Enigma. Da Vinci Enigma Tarot are sitting on my desk. What would Da Vinci think? Would he like tarot readers to use his art in vain? I have a cousin who's trying to indoctrinate me, to help me see the light. Well, the aura. I have a gold one, apparently. Our grandmother read tea leaves and deciphered palms. As a teenager, I called myself Madame Astral, like her, and pretended I could read palms as well. In my gypsy headdress at the school fete, I set up a dark tunnelled space in the art room and read dozens of pupils. I stroked their palms and told them of their future. It was an enigma. I didn't even think of Da Vinci. His art was not a code to be broken. His art was agony and ecstasy, Mona Lisa, Last Supper fresco, St. John the Baptist. Leonardo looked much like my father. My father was an artist too. His father, a blacksmith. He didn't believe in fairies at the bottom of the garden. He had faith in steel and anvils. My father would say, put away the cards and paint a picture. My grandfather would say, don't waste your bloody time on either. Maybe I'll just shuffle the tarot and see what comes up. Doesn't hurt to look at Leonardo paintings no matter what the guise and see what my future brings.
Icarus, last words. As I fall, I watch my father float to safety on less rapid atmospheres. His wings intact, he hovers high above me as I plummet. And yet long after he lands, long after he is held in my mother's grieving arms, it is not his wisdom, but my bright death that will be celebrated. My ribbons of wax, my shout in the clouds, a glassy sea beneath me as I melt and am finally unfeathered. At last I have honored my island. I have passed beyond family. I will be falling for centuries, suspended forever in the rich, dense air of legend.
Behind your favourite team, there's another team. At all levels, in all codes, sports trainers are working to make sport safer. Sports trainers learn injury prevention techniques from doctors and other health professionals so they can provide the right first aid when the going gets tough. If your team could do with a sports trainer, maybe it's time you got a little closer to the action. Find out how you can become a sports trainer. Sports Medicine Australia, providing the team behind the team.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Hi, this is Darren McAlane from Air FM Drive. Join me from 3 to 6 p.m. every afternoon on 88.0 in Penrith, and also you can catch me on tunein.com. That's from 3 to 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy.
This is called Yesterday Was My Hero, and I guess they're the closest to sort of what's happening in the world I get to. I'm not that, educated, am I? Yesterday was my hero. I chomp on yesterday's sushi, and a pocket full of walnuts. There's termites in the uprights, controls shattered on the floor, chocks in cracks of door. On the news, nothing but war. Shirl no longer sings horror movie, but it's still there 30 years gone. Water filters, poison, fluoride, toxic, chlorine, heavy metals, no Bon Scott to sing TNT anymore. And petrol's done, gone way, way up when 95% of us are poor. Mustard gold curtain, gas heats my teeth, my heat rocks on, but Elvis doesn't have blue suede shoes anymore. Floorboards are bare, bar the green, green grass of home. China has a massive earthquake, Burma a horrifying monsoon, but that was yesterday's news. Double-sided sticky tape seals the edges, glitter flickers, lids off, dry our colours for next time. Donovan no longer sings Mellow Yellow. And whatever happened to Woody Guthrie and Joan Baez? They are still making little boxes made of ticky-tacky, and Peter, Paul and Mary wondered where have all the flowers gone. There are now more babies dying than petals on the wind. We watch on jelly button screen George Orwell size. Reality TV is passé. No umbilical on our telephones. We freeball, hands-free, in Kentucky burger shake land. Coffee simmers, tumours, chew gum, undies are bums, mums are strange from mums, love just don't live here anymore. Humans absorb hormones from meaty plastic, Tupperware is cheap, recycled cheaper, but our food goes up, up and away. TAA doesn't fly here anymore, nor Ansett. Virgin is our bird. Nothing about high men, only if you're a sailor. No more Norman Mailer. All those pretty little horses and the spinning wheel goes round and round as I rock in my moaning chair, reclining, legs in air, imagining, aspirating my Hashimoto's. No more yesterday's heroes, just yesterday's photos.
Melbourne, 4 a.m. She's mostly asleep, eyes closed, draped around the bay, subtle toes closed over Frankston, her head pillowed on the ripple of hills to the northeast. King Lake, maybe, where suicides go to watch the city disappear. She's drowsing with her other knee around Williamstown, the bridge her garter, the empty streets to the west of her at rest. She's 300 parks waiting, their paths in shadow. She's the furtive scurry, the dead elbow of Russell and Burke. She's the sudden hush of Carlton. She's small boats going out from the port to net those first inquisitive fish. She's a tired pro driving home to Beaumaris to pay off the babysitter and then lie down beside her daughter in the dark. She's young hips pumping in the back lanes of Collingwood. She's someone bleeding on a street in Reservoir. She's the ancient trees of Kew pressed knowingly together over motionless avenues. She's weary police on surveillance in Footscray. She's a single father getting up to rock his son to sleep for the 5th time. She's the sigh of Northcote, the scream of Seaford. She's every driver running the Brighton lights. She's tears at South Bank and angry boys riding the Broadmeadows line. She's a kiss in Windsor. She's scarves on the driveways of High Street. She's the stolen scent of roses and lavender on the rising tide of morning. She's a wrecking ball paused above the shells of buildings few of us will remember. She's the engineer of the day's first train, arising quietly so as not to disturb his wife. She's sporadic traffic necklacing the river. She's punt road finally slowing down. She's fairy floss dropped onto hot cement. She's each of us steering our dreams as we turn away from the wall. But mostly she's asleep, the bridge her garter, eyes closed, on her side, draped around the bay.
The whale has been getting a good press lately. His skin is like oil paper, blotched with olive and grey rosettes. He concentrates on building nests, which are large and untidy, as opposed to the restless turkey, who always has 10,000 eggs and has to build a nest for each clutch of 5. It is not surprising she is always nervous and excitable. Whales are fashionably suave, but are clumsy dancers who always tread on your feet, whereas sardines are excellent dancers, but cannot be relied on to do the right thing in general. I passed her the Benedictine, but she spat it back in the bottle, claiming that it was thin and watery, and she never liked Benedictine anyway. What could I do? It was all I had. I still hoped to get her tiddly. She was more fun that way. Whales tend to prefer strawberry liqueurs. While as for me, I like drinks made from oranges. The door robot could not stop me. I walked through it like glass. This car is more tin box than windows, I complained. And we got stuck in the seaweed, which flapped at us ineffectually with strands like limp, wet, fat fingers. Long strands of glutinous eggs, probably from Cherokee, draped across the windscreen like strands of blobby pearls. The lobster tried to raise his bowler hat, but it got stuck in his spines and he cursed. His feet were going purple in the sunlight. I knew I would end up with chubby Josephine. She took a manly swig of her Benedictine, which I passed her while swerving around the limpets. What could I do? It was all I had. She caught my eye and I knew everything was going to be all right.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah. The results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
What is that street? We'll get there. What's this?
Good fun, this.
Yes.
Oh. Hello, Michael. Be quiet, somebody's trying to record here.
Oh, sorry, mate. Are you trying to record something? Yeah, this is the new addition to the Met Transport. Air conditioned. Yeah.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed.video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed.video, we wish you a very good night.